It's easy to look around and feel like you're falling behind. A colleague gets a promotion and immediately moves into a luxury high-rise. Friends post photos of $500 Michelin star dinners. Everywhere you look, the world is flashing keys to a high-end car and the latest designer labels. But those symbols often represent a trade-off. In the US, the average car payment has climbed to over $700 a month, and many households making over six figures report living paycheck to paycheck. When you see a flashy lifestyle, you are often looking at a pile of monthly debt obligations rather than a pile of saved cash. This is the power of social proof. For many, the value of a purchase isn't the item itself, but the validation of showing it to others. A trip to the Eiffel Tower becomes less about the experience and more about the digital proof that you can afford to be there. Actual wealth building is the literal opposite of this performance. It is a slow, visually boring, and entirely quiet process of daily behavioral discipline. It doesn't look like much to an outsider. If you feel behind while watching your peers spend, but you are consistently making disciplined choices, you are likely harboring the secret habits that build long-term wealth. We all face a psychological hurdle called lifestyle creep. As humans, we naturally tend to use up whatever resources we have available. If you have 2 weeks to write an essay, it takes 2 weeks. If you get a $10,000 raise, it's remarkably easy to find $10,000 of new needs to spend it on. This chart highlights the most important number in your life. Here we have a $60,000 income bar and a $55,000 expense bar. That small $5,000 space in the middle is the gap. This margin is the ultimate predictor of how rich you will eventually become. Most people fall into a trap here. When their income climbs to $80,000, they subconsciously drift their spending up to $75,000. They feel like they're doing better, but because the gap stayed the same, their financial trajectory hasn't changed at all. The quietly wealthy do things differently. By keeping their lifestyle fixed, even as they earn more, that green gap explodes to $25,000. Maintaining that distance over 10 or 20 years is what creates massive generational wealth. One of the biggest obstacles to widening this gap is the automobile. The average American now carries a $767 monthly payment on an asset that loses value every single day. Driving an older, paid-off vehicle is a calculated strategy to redirect thousands of dollars every year into compounding investments rather than interest payments on a depreciating machine. Maintaining that strategy requires ignoring the Joneses. Trying to match the highlight reel lives of people on social media is a recipe for financial ruin, especially because you never see the debt and stress hidden behind the curated photos. People who are actually getting rich eventually stop broadcasting their raises or their big purchases. When you no longer seek external validation, the need to announce your financial status simply disappears. This shift changes your focus from income to net worth. While income is a short-term metric, your net worth is the ultimate reflection of habits and discipline over time. As Naval Ravikant points out, all real returns in life come from compound interest. This makes long-term optimization the only reliable path to wealth. This is the Warren Buffett model, holding quality assets for decades and allowing time to do the heavy lifting. This mindset often results in extreme patience. A quietly wealthy person might research a $500 purchase for months, only to decide the item wouldn't actually improve their life and walk away from it entirely. When your identity is no longer tied to impressing strangers, you stop losing money on status symbols you don't truly want. Eventually, you reach a level where you stop valuing physical goods and start valuing time. You might spend $150 to have someone clean your house, because buying back those 4 hours allows you to focus on higher leverage work or meaningful rest. The final test of this mindset is emotional control. When the market drops and the news is filled with panic, the average investor gets swept up and sells at a loss. This chart shows the macro view. You can see the terrifying dips in 1987, 2008, and 2020. But despite those crises, the overall trajectory of the market trends aggressively upward over the long term. The quietly rich view a crashing market as an opportunity to buy assets at a discount. They trust the data and the process rather than the headlines of the day. In the early stages of building wealth, saving feels like a constant friction. Packing a lunch or skipping a night out can feel like a painful sacrifice that triggers a sense of missing out. With time, those behaviors become the preferred choice. Staying in to enjoy a simple hobby or eating a meal at home feels peaceful. You are no longer missing out on the expensive option. You are simply choosing the one that brings you more value. This transition marks a fundamental shift in identity. Good financial behaviors no longer require willpower because they align with your core values. Funding an investment account becomes a standard way to protect your future, rather than a burden on your present. Building wealth is an internal mastery of impulses. If you are practicing these quiet habits, trust the process. Your net worth will eventually reflect your actions.